There's no doubt that there are a lot of great games out there, but only few of them can be considered perfect. Amidst all this, there are some titles that are truly special, and almost everyone should play these games. That's why I have made a list of 15 literally perfect games that you must play, no matter what. All these games have something unique for everyone. There are also some bonus games at the end, so let's look at the first game on our list. Bloodborne. Bloodborne is an absolute beast of a game. From the moment you step into the game, you're hit with this dark, nightmarish vibe, and to be honest, I really loved it. Playing an entire game where everything is kind of spooky, and then you combine all this with the highest level of difficulty, what more do you need? Not gonna lie, Bloodborne is definitely not for everyone, but people who love Souls games knows how important this game really is. For me, Sekiro and Bloodborne will always be the two goats of From Software. Anyways, if you have played all the major Souls titles, and luckily you do own a PS4, then my friend, it's time to give Bloodborne a chance. This game will literally test your skills and patience. Unlike other games, you can't just get an overpowered weapon or build. In Bloodborne, you must learn new skills, attack patterns, and use different attack move sets. Each enemy is different, resulting in you growing as a player by learning about all sorts of things. It's funny, but I know that a lot of you who are diving into the game for the first time will probably quit it at the first boss. Bloodborne is one of those games where everything is hard and out to get you, even the first boss. So if you are in a mood for some hardcore challenges, then don't look further as Bloodborne will be your prime choice. The world design is all interconnected in a way that makes exploring a joy, even though every alleyway feels like it's hiding some deadly secret. There's this constant tension in the air, where you know danger could be lurking just around the corner. Uncharted 4. If you've played the other games in the series, this one just feels like the perfect conclusion to Nathan Drake's story. The story really digs deep into Nate's past with his brother Sam, who suddenly shows up out of nowhere, and the adventure kicks off. You're pulled right back into that treasure hunting life, but this time it's more personal. There's a lot more than just big shootouts or car chases. This time you finally see the curtains fall on Drake's epic journey. I always say this, that if you have played all the previous parts and are a fan of the series for a long time, then Thief's End will be a huge reward for you. It's so much more than just a finale. The sense of accomplishment you get after everything's done is unmatchable. It's as if a great journey has passed right before your eyes and you have seen every part of it. Now, one of the most important factors that I'd like to talk about is that some players call the game boring or slow-paced. Tell you what, say this again once you're 3 to 4 hours into the game. Maybe when you enter in Thief's End for the first time, you probably feel like quitting it. But that's also only for a small percentage of players. I'm sure that most of you will love the game and want to keep on playing it. There are a lot of awesome cutscenes, finest characters, and man's secrets to uncover. Uncharted 4 is truly a blessing for anyone who wants to experience an engaging story combined with great action. Red Dead Redemption 2.
This is it, gentlemen. The last one.
There can never be a game like Red Dead. This is one of those peak moments of Rockstar when everything felt right. It's much better than GTA 5's open world. You could do anything you want. If you are slightly bored with the main storyline, then you can explore the open world, hunt for animals, complete side quests, find small details, mess with the NPCs, visit certain places, or even find treasure. The game is loaded with content to make you feel as if you're in a living, breathing world where even the tiniest details matter. I remember I was completely surprised from Chapter 2. It felt like a huge world of endless possibilities has opened for me.
You, my friend, what do you think about women's suffrage?
I could go anywhere and do whatever I wanted. The storyline will always be one of the strongest points that made the game our favorite memory. However, I'm sure a lot of you guys have spent over 50 hours doing random stuff, and it's totally understandable. Now, let's just give some appreciation to the characters, the story, and the overall writing or dialogues. Red Dead 2 touched our hearts, and the main reason was Arthur and the bond between the gang. towards the end, you start to realize that everything is about to end, and that's what truly makes each moment precious. We see everything about Arthur's life, such as his troubles, his love life, the illness, how great of a person he was, and he just really felt something more than a game's main character. We really connected with the guy. It Takes Two. It's one of those games where you can't play alone. It literally forces you to work with someone, and that's the magic of it. The story is kind of simple but sweet. You play as a husband and wife who are going through some relationship troubles and then get turned into these little doll versions of yourselves by your daughter's magic or something. The whole game is about trying to get back to normal while fixing your relationship in the process. What makes It Takes Two so special is how it really nails the co-op experience. You have to communicate, solve puzzles together, and sometimes there are these moments where only one player can do something specific, so it feels really balanced. You can't help but have fun with whoever you're playing with, whether it's a friend or someone closer. The developers nailed the concept of the game. Every level has a different mechanic, so you're constantly learning something new, and it keeps things fresh the entire way through. One moment you're working together with magnets, the next you're swinging through a tree, then you're fighting a giant vacuum cleaner boss. It's all over the place in the best way. Each level is almost like a mini genre of its own. Another favorite thing of mine about It Takes Two is how colorful it is. Each area is filled with something beautiful and full of colors. It's as if you are playing a happy-go-lucky game with an engaging gameplay. You're never stuck doing one thing for too long, and each new area feels exciting to dive into. It Takes Two is one of those games that feels really polished from start to finish.
We should do this more often.
Infamous Second Son. This one is like stepping into a superhero movie, but you get to call the shots. The game gives you the freedom to explore, and it's all about using your superhuman abilities to either save or wreak havoc. The powers are probably the best part of the game. You start off with smoke, and it's such a blast, zooming through vents and blasting enemies with smoky punches. But then you get neon, which lets you zip around the city like a light show, and it feels like pure art in motion. There's something really satisfying about unlocking more powers as you go, each one more creative than the last. The whole karma system is really cool too. Depending on whether you want to be a hero or go full anti-hero, your choices impact how the story unfolds, how people react to you, and even how your powers evolve. It's always tempting to go full bad guy, especially with some of the chaotic powers you get, but the game gives you solid reasons to stay on the good path as well. You can easily switch between powers and string together combos that feel like a mix of strategy and pure chaos. Plus the parkour is super fun. You can pretty much scale any building, glide around, and never feel stuck in one place for long. If you're into open world games with fun powers and fast-paced action, Infamous Second Son definitely scratches that itch. It's just pure fun, and when you throw in the gorgeous visuals and slick combat, it's hard not to get hooked. The Witcher 3. The Witcher 3 is honestly one of those rare games that just pulls you in and doesn't let go. The world is massive, but not in a way that feels overwhelming. It's more like wherever you go, there's a new story, a hidden detail, or something that makes you feel like you're in a living, breathing world. If we talk about the combat, then it's pretty cool, with a mix of swordplay, magic, and potions, though it can feel a little repetitive if you're just slashing away. But what stands out for me is how every decision you make actually feels like it matters.
Go away, or I'll kill you.
You think you're just choosing between a couple of dialogue options, and then 5 hours later you're dealing with the consequences in ways you didn't expect. It's got that kind of depth. Honestly, there's a lot to talk about, as every gaming feature such as environment, characters, story, open world, and much more are perfect in Witcher 3. Sure, for some players the initial hours are boring, but I just don't know how people can ever hate this game after finishing it. Witcher has been one of the most iconic titles of all time. A lot of RPGs have taken inspiration from it. There's even a TV series starring Henry Cavill, and don't even get me started on the books. If you guys ask me, then I just want to say that if you are looking for some deep open world RPG where every feature is perfect, then Witcher 3 will be a great choice. If you are getting bored in the first few hours, then wait for it, because the game definitely gets better. Mass Effect Trilogy. The Mass Effect Trilogy is an unforgettable space epic. From the first mission, you're thrown into the story where every choice you make matters. The combat evolves through the games, but it's not just about shooting, it's the relationships and world building that truly stand out. One of the most memorable aspects is your crew. The NPC characters feel like genuine companions, each with their own arcs and personalities that grow with you across the trilogy.
Want play.
The writing makes every conversation feel important, whether you're making a major decision about the fate of the galaxy or just chatting with a friend on the ship. The depth of the relationships you form is honestly what kept me hooked. The weight of your decisions is another standout. Choices you make in the first game can come back to impact the third, and it gives a sense of continuity and stakes that few other games pull off. You're never really sure if you made the right call, which just adds to the immersion. By the time I finished the trilogy, I felt like I'd been on an emotional journey, and despite the controversies around the ending, I'll always look back at Mass Effect as one of the best RPG experiences. It's a story of sacrifice, loyalty, and survival, with a world and characters that stay with you long after the credits roll. Disco Elysium.
Furiously, with both hands.
Disco Elysium is one of those games that hits you in ways you didn't expect. The story is what makes the game stand out. It's quite a different experience. You're playing as a detective who happens to have lost all his memories. So yeah, you're struggling with amnesia, alcohol, and your inner demons as well. Throughout all this, you're trying to figure out a lot of things, and that's what the entire game is about. Disco is something that will either hook you in depending on your mood, whether you're in need for some dialogue-focused story gameplay.
Precinct 57 sent their
On the other hand, I'm sure that you will exit the game if you're expecting some action, shooting, or even fantasy elements. Every choice you make feels meaningful, whether you're investigating a murder, diving into philosophical debates, or just trying to survive the wild conversations in your own head. The game constantly has you talking to people, and each dialogue is like its own adventure. You can be a genius, a lunatic, or just someone trying to keep it together, and the world reacts to that in the most immersive ways. Plus, there's no combat in the traditional sense. The game's core focus is solving the storyline and developing your character with different skills, empathy, bravado, or intellect. To be honest, if you're tired of the basic third-person RPGs or FPS games, then why don't you guys try out something unique and story-focused? That's where Disco Elysium comes in handy. There are a lot of dialogues, and nothing feels complicated, assuming you're keeping in touch with what's going on in the storyline. Mirror's Edge. Mirror's Edge is such a unique experience. It's one of those games where you feel completely immersed because of the first-person parkour mechanics. The flow of movement is really what makes it stand out. You're constantly running, jumping, and sliding across rooftops, all while trying to maintain momentum. It's like the game forces you to think fast and be precise. The visuals also play a huge part in creating that immersive feel. It's kind of weird how much a simple color palette can affect the mood, but it really adds to that sense of speed and urgency. One thing that makes Mirror's Edge different from other games is how it handles combat. You're not encouraged to engage in fights, and it can feel clunky when you do. It's all about the parkour. When you stick to that flow and avoid confrontations, it just clicks. In my opinion, the story isn't mind-blowing, but it's serviceable enough to keep you going, especially because you're more focused on the gameplay anyway. It's the type of game that, once you get into that rhythm, becomes kind of a zen experience, like a mix of adrenaline and calm. Overall, it's the movement that makes it a gem. Honestly, I'm a huge sucker for parkour or free running. So even if the game isn't like Uncharted or Prince of Persia, all the good action, you know what I'm talking about. Still, Mirror's Edge is a great choice if you just want to sit back and enjoy some smooth movements with a touch of combat. Elden Ring. I know that this one is another basic choice, but you can never disagree that Elden Ring is a bad game. Everyone who completed the game is crazy about what From Software has done with it. The open world, the bosses, and the variety of weapons or builds, it all adds up perfectly, giving a fascinating experience. Even someone who's a major fan of the Souls games, I can tell you that Elden Ring is such a fresh take, though I hope that from now on the studio comes back to the linear style. It'd be nice to play another Sekiro or Bloodborne. Elden Ring is an experience that I think every gamer should have at least once. It's not just a game, it's like a brutal, immersive world that constantly demands your focus. The first thing you'll notice is just how massive and beautiful the world is. Everywhere you go, there's something lurking, whether it's a terrifying boss that'll crush you in seconds or a hidden item that makes your journey just a bit more manageable. What blew me away the most was how the game doesn't hold your hand at all. You're thrown into this world without a map filled with markers or constant directions. It's up to you to figure things out, and that sense of discovery is next level. When you finally stumble upon a hidden dungeon or a crazy boss fight, it's just this rush of excitement mixed with dread because you know you're probably going to die, but that's part of the fun. It's not just about the challenge though. Elden Ring feels like a game where you can create your own adventure. Whether you're exploring every inch of the map or leveling up your character to experiment with different builds, there's always something new to do or learn. It's definitely a game that rewards patience and curiosity, and if you stick with it, it'll give you some of the best moments you've ever had in gaming. The Last of Us Remake. The Last of Us Remake is an absolute experience, even for someone who's played the original. It's not just a visual upgrade, it feels like the game has been rebuilt from the ground up. The first thing that hits you is the insane level of detail. From the lighting to the character animations, everything feels way more alive and grounded. You'll notice the emotions in the characters' faces so much clearer now, especially in those gut-wrenching moments with Joel and Ellie. It's like watching an intense movie but having full control over it. If you guys ask me, then I'm one of those players who only heard about the series but actually played the remake as my entry into The Last of Us. Honestly, it didn't disappoint me even a bit. You don't need to be a huge fan of zombie apocalypse games. The Last of Us is so much more than. The bond and the journey you experience throughout the game is something indescribable. I totally loved how strong the connection between Joel and Ellie thickens towards the end. And don't even get me started about the second part. The only reason I sort of hate the sequel is because of the ending. I just wish that there could have been a better ending for Joel and Ellie. Anyways, if you guys still haven't played the remake, then there's no better time to do it now. You will have so much fun, whether it be story-wise, gameplay, or even the cutscenes. The game is such a huge blast from start to end. Inside. This one is a pure atmospheric game with a touch of horror element. It's like being dropped into a haunting world with almost no context, but you feel that something is deeply wrong. The game's art style is so minimalist, but it creates this massive tension with its dark, muted colors and the way the world feels so empty, yet oppressive at the same time. What really hooked me is how it's all about solving puzzles without any tutorials or explanations, just pure intuition. The puzzles are challenging, but not in a way that feels unfair, more like the game is daring you to think outside the box. The animations and the sound design are so tight that every action feels important, especially when you're being chased. There's this ever-present sense of danger. If we talk about the storyline, which obviously is a key aspect, because who doesn't like to find out what's going on in this dark world? In my opinion, it's quite cryptic. Even by the end, you're left with more questions than answers. But that's what makes Inside so cool. It's up for interpretation, and you can't stop thinking about it once the credits roll. It's short, but it leaves a lasting impression, like a really intense dream you can't shake off. To be honest, if you are in the mood for something underrated or lesser known, then Inside will be a nice pick. It's one of those games where you don't have to equip any crazy builds or engage in high action scenes. Inside is mostly about puzzle solving in a tense environment, which will definitely get hooked. Marvel's Spider-Man. It would be a crime not to mention our favorite superhero. Sure, a lot of you guys will have different preferences, but for me, the best Spidey game will always be the 2018's release. It's an absolute blast, especially if you're a fan of open world games. Swinging through New York as Spidey never gets old, it's so smooth and satisfying. The web swinging mechanics are just spot on, and you really feel like you're zipping between skyscrapers at crazy speeds. Plus, combat is fast and fluid, with that signature Spider-Man agility. You're flipping over enemies, dodging bullets, and using webs in creative ways to take down thugs, which keeps things fresh throughout. This time, it's not just action crime missions. In Marvel's Spider-Man, you're even balancing out Peter's personal life, which adds more depth to the story. I really love this feature because it felt authentic and a bit relatable. Now, a few other aspects such as visuals, graphics, colors are pointless to talk about because honestly, it's been 6 years, everyone already knows about the greatness of Marvel's Spider-Man from the graphical perspective. You really feel like you're in Spidey's world. In my opinion, what made me happier is the introduction of some of the iconic villains. That was such a huge smack in the face because you finally see the familiar faces, and it truly elevated the experience. Low-key, if you have played this one, then by all means please give the sequel a shot. And I'm not talking about Miles Morales. I want you guys to get your hands on Spider-Man 2. The Venom part is all you need to know about before you start smashing the controller. Black Myth Wukong. The game takes heavy inspiration from Journey to the West, and you feel it in every aspect. Playing as the Monkey King is such a power trip. His transformations, staff combat, and mystical abilities make for a gameplay experience that's both diverse and satisfying. What really stood out to me was the world itself. It feels mythical and grounded at the same time. There's a constant sense of wonder as you explore the vast environments, discovering hidden paths and lore pieces. So across all the chapters, you will see different landscapes or environments, which really enhances the experience because who doesn't love to kill enemies in a forest, then in a wasteland, and then slaying a dragon on a frozen lake? The boss fights are epic in scale and design, each with unique mechanics and a cinematic scene that keeps you on your toes. You will love the combat as it's a bit Souls-like but with more flashy moves and combos. Enemies hit hard and you'll need to master dodging and countering if you want to survive, but once you get into the rhythm, it's incredibly rewarding. Anyways, besides combat, exploration, and environments, there are also some high quality visuals and textures. People are going crazy seeing how impressive the game looks. The density of the grass, the smooth flow of the game, highly defined characters, and such intense cutscenes. Black Myth is definitely not a joke and worthy of the #1 Steam game with the highest sales. Before I reveal my final pick, here are some honorable mentions. Portal 2. Outer Wilds. Half-Life Alyx. Telltale Walking Dead Season 1. Batman Arkham City. Ghost of Tsushima. I'm a huge fan of samurai or ninja games, and the moment I saw or even heard about this game, I was truly excited about it. And finally, when I got the chance to play it, Tsushima really blew my mind. It was the first time I felt that this game is massive, and it's not just another 6 hours experience. I was truly happy because I finally got the opportunity to play over 50 hours of samurai Japanese action. The moment you start the game, you're hit with this feeling that something extraordinary will happen. The story, the characters, the side missions, and even the open world felt such a huge blast. I can't describe the feeling I had when I first saw the flowers, the grass, the buildings, and even the people. At that moment, I was extremely thankful to Sucker Punch for nailing down the concept of open world samurai ninja game. If you are a fan of open world games, then there's no reason to skip this one. And even if this is your first time playing something like that, then Ghost of Tsushima will serve as a perfect entry point. You will definitely be happy after the curtains roll and will feel like you have been a part of a touching journey. Alright, this finishes our list of the 15 literally perfect games that you must play. I know that there are a lot of games that I missed and even some of the popular ones, but I've already talked about them in the older videos. So if you are in the mood for that, then check out some of my previous videos. All these games have got something unique in them that makes them perfect. Anyways, if you have made it this far, then please subscribe as I'm close to reaching 22,000 subscribers and join my Discord community for giveaways.